Mr. President, question on another subject.
Sponsor yields.
Thank you. Does the resolution include language authorizing the City of New York to utilize design build for the reconstruction of the Brooklyn-Queens Expressway?
Mr. President, the answer is yes.
If the sponsor would yield for an additional question?
Yeah.
Sponsor will yield.
Is the sponsor aware that that provision, which would have no cost to the state, would save the taxpayers at least $100 million and speed up a critical transportation project that will affect the entire metropolitan region of New York by 2 full years?
Through you, Mr. President, yes, the city expects that that measure that we include in our proposal would save about $100 million.
Mr. President, another question, if the sponsor would yield.
Sponsor yields.
Can the sponsor explain why the majority's language for that very sensible, cost-free proposal that'll prevent traffic from being snarled in the New York City area and save $100 million with no cost to the state, why approval of that in the Senate resolution is conditioned on approving a separate proposal that may be worthy about ensuring that cops, that is a police officer in every single school in New York City?
Through you, Mr. President, we believe that both proposals are very important, so we will be negotiating those as we move forward.
Mr. President, if the sponsor would yield for another question.
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
Is it the intent of the majority to reject BQE design build? The language seems to be written in such a way that you can't accept one without the other. It's conditioned on a deal to put a police officer in every single school. Is this an example of the majority, if we don't get their way on a certain policy issue, however legitimate, suggesting that perhaps it's time for traffic problems in Brooklyn, to borrow a phrase from New Jersey?
Through you, Mr. President, no.
Okay, so, Mr. President, just one more question on this topic.
Sponsor will yield.
Is it the sponsor's assertion that it is not the intent of the majority to condition design build for the BQE on an unrelated proposal related to police officers in schools?
Through you, Mr. President, they are both, as I previously stated, they're both very important issues, and we will be discussing them as we move forward.
Again, Mr. President, just once more, if I can get an answer to this question. Is it the intent, if the sponsor would yield?
Sponsor yields.
Yes.
Is it the intent of the majority to condition the BQE design build proposal on a separate, unrelated, perhaps worthy proposal that we have additional police officers in schools, or is it the intent of the majority to support BQE design build on its own merits?
Through you, Mr. President, I have answered that question several times, and so I stand by my previous answers.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to the